Welcome back, and thank you very much. I like your effort. I mean, the tenacity, the way you guys are following the videos and all that. I'm continuing with the layouts. I mean, how to say, we need to understand the placement of components in a particular container and all that. We need to understand that. So we are basically looking at the placement of components in a particular container, or the layout of it. So first of all, what we need to do is that we always, as usual, we always have to create a class. So my class is going to be public. Then the class, remember, keywords are always lowercase, and then is lay demo. Okay, lay demo, and then I'll need my main method, that is the public static void. Then I'll need this one where I'll get my string, square brackets, then args. Okay, so public static void, I didn't bring the main. Public static void main. Okay, and then this time around I have no constructor, but I can create the object ld new ldemo so ldemo ld equals this. So this time around we need a container. So as usual, import javax dot okay, so we have the javax swing dot java swing dot then star. We end it. Let me bring the AWT, even though I'm not doing AWT, just have to bring it there. Maybe it might crop for me to use one particular element in there. Okay, so another style that I'm using for the creation of objects, so this is the JFrame. This one here is the JFrame, that is the FR equals JFrame. Yeah, okay. So having JFrame objects, the next thing that we need to do here is that as usual we need the FR dot set size and then I'm giving it 300. Let me do it 500 so I will mix a little bit bigger. So 500, yeah. Okay, and then FR again dot set default close operation So JFrame dot exit, or in caps underscore on, and then underscore close. So let me save this one, lay demo. So this is lay demo. So lay demo. Okay, so saved. So let's compile. And then Java. Okay, so I need to run it. Okay, it needs to come in the middle. Okay, this one, let's leave it like that. Okay, so let me let it come in the middle. So fr dot set location relative to now. You save, you run. Okay, so now I'm going to place a component, that is the J button, and then this one too, I'm just going to do it here. So everything in the main method. So J button, then let me do it btn underscore center btn underscore north. So we have the west, so we have the west, center, and all that. So having this one here, so just creating the instance now. I have used I have south, and then also I have west. Okay, so what is going to happen is that I just need to add one component, and then the component I'm adding to the frame, so I need to bring my frame dot add. So okay, so having this, what happened next is BT. I'm just going to add this to my container. See what happens. I just want you to see what happens. So let's compile and then run it. Now you see that the button is basically in like occupying every space. Okay, it's occupying every space. Now then again, let me add another one and see what happens to the next thing that I add. I'm adding the north. See what happens to the north. So I have two buttons in the container. Okay, so you see that this is also occupying it. Okay, this is also occupying it. But before we do that, I have two components on it. So before anything, I want to set another container. We have more containers there, but the popular ones we'll be using are the frame, the JFrame, and then also JPanel. Now there is another container called JPanel which we need to declare here, and that is the JPanel. Okay, so with the JPanel, that is the PL equals new, and then you have the JPanel. Okay, so having this one here, now if anything I have to add the panel. Before I add the panel, I'll be adding this component to the panel. Okay, the two buttons to the panel, and then add the panel to the frame. So the FR, which is the frame, and I'm adding the panel rather to that. So check what happens when I run it. I just want you to observe something. File and then CLS, compile, run. Now you see it's changed. Now this two is showing. This two is showing. Okay, and this is how it's kind of like floating on. Now what is this telling us? It's telling us that the frame container is having a different layout, and also the panel container is also having a different layout. So the panel container, the layout that the panel container is having is what we call the float layout. The frame container is also having another layout that is called the border layout. So if you are dealing with the frame kind of layout, all what we need to do here is that, let me comment this thing so that it won't be executed. So those tools are commented. It means that they are not going to be executed. So FR, let me comment this. So therefore these two here, when I compile, it's giving me this notes. Okay, that's what it's showing here. So the best thing is that in order to make sure all of them shows, I'm going to add this one to the note, the note button to the note. So how do we do that? You bring comma and then you call what we call the border layout. This is the border layout dot a constant value. So I'll put in note, that's the constant value. So that's the note there. So now I'm kind of like, I need to see the note button up and then also see this in the center. So therefore compile, run, and then there's the note. So you see that the button note is appearing as a note because I said border layout dot note. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. The next one is also adding another one, and that's one that I'm adding needs to go to the east. So east, I need to add the east button like that. So therefore, how do I do that? Then this is the east. So copy, to the east, copy to the south, so I'm adding all of them to the frame. That is the FR frame. And then the last one here is to the west. Okay, so I'll need this border layout so this one, the east will be to the east, the south would have to be at the south, and then also the west will also have to be at the west. So that's the placement here. So we use the border layout for that placement, and then when you compile and then you run, this is what you see. This is the kind of arrangement that by default the container will give you. Now if when you use the flow layout, the panel, this placement is not going to be arranged like this. This is for border. So border layout dot north, border layout dot east, border layout dot south, and the east. So you can see the placement that we have. This is the east, this is the center, and all that. So when I close it and I'm placing, that's the border layout for the container. So if I want to place all these things that I have in float, okay, in the float, this is what I have for the float. So let me clear this, and I'm just adding only 2 for that purpose or for that example, and then compile and then run. So you see this one, because it's using the panel, it's the panel that these 2, the center and the north, is on. So we are adding the center button here, we are adding the north button to the panel, not to the frame, but the panel rather is rather on what? The frame. Okay, so the panel is having what we call the flow layout, and this is what we see for flow layout. Now another person will be like, okay, can we change the layout of a particular container? Yes, of course we can change it. How do we change it? Okay, how do we change it? Now before I even think of changing anything, I want to set this, that is the flow layout. Dot left. Close it. Compile and run. Okay, so nothing is not happening here, but one thing you need to understand is that when it comes to the flow layout, okay, you can set what we call flow layouts, because we are going to change the layout of the frame container. So we have a flow layout here, and then we are going to call our flow layout FL equals the new, and then also flow layout, and then also what will happen here is that in our flow layout, we don't want everything to be stacked in the middle as we see there, but I want it to be floated to the left and to the right. So let me put this one here like this. Now I'm going to set the frame layout, the frame, not the panel. I'm going to set its layout. I'm setting the layout to the flow layout here. So having something like that, now our flow layout is basically having what? This layout here. So we have our frame having a flow layout, and that is floating to the left. So the whole thing here is that now when you cut this, which is now changing the frame layout to that. Now let's comment this one. You just have to put in that in order to indicate how the object must float. So looking at this one here, we'll clear this, and then we can put the FL here like that. So we are adding it in for it to be floated as per what we specified. Oh, sorry, I don't even need to bring this. Just add them in because it's being set. I just need to add them in like that. Okay, voila. Okay, because the flow layout here, we change the container, that's the frame. We didn't set the panel. The panel by default is flow layout, but container by default is a border layout. But we set the layout, and then we said, oh, we want, let's say, our layout must take what we call the float layer, and it's going to float to the left. Without this one, the floating will be in the middle. Without the left, the floating will be in the middle like that. So let me close it, and then compile. Now run it. Okay, so the floating will be in the middle. That is how it's supposed to work. Compile and then run. Okay, so you see it's in the middle like that. Okay, so that is for the float layout. Okay, now there's a question that, okay, now what if you want your own kind of layout without you specifying any layout, or using either the border or the flow layout or something? Yes, of course you can do that. And to do so, you clear and then you set the layouts to now. So when you set the layout to now, so it means that now the container is not having any layout. So if the container is having no layout, there are two things that you need to do. If you are adding a component, you need to specify the size and also set the location where the thing will be placed. Okay, so for example, if you are dealing with, let me comment all these things so that they will not be executed. So looking at the flow layout, the button center, we need to set the size and everything. So before we add it, we have to say the button dot what? Set size. So we are adding that, so we set the size.
What on it? In the Sunday school.
We set the size
In the Sunday school.
to we set size to, let's say, because it's an integer, we don't need a double quote. So let's say 20, that's for the x, and then 10, that's for the horizontal, and then the location for BTN center. So set location. So we are setting size and location. The location, the same x and y axis. So we can say 10, 10. So x10, y10, and then we end it. So therefore, let's see what happens when we compile and then we run it. Okay, so you see, because you said 2020, now let me move to, let's say, the x will take like 100, and then this will take like 30, the height, which is the y for the size. So we compile, we run it. Okay, so this is 130 for it, and then this is what we are getting for that. But we said 10, 10, but I can say, okay, why don't the x move like say 150 away from the border? So check 150 away, compile, run, and then you see that's 150 away. If you want to bring it down 150 down, you can do the same thing by specifying. You see, I'm just changing the location for it by using what we call set size and set location. So same way you can do that by using that. So 150 away from that. And then if you don't want to make use of set size and set location, but in one statement you want to specify all that, we have what we call set bounds. Set bounds. Okay, and with the set bounds we have the size, and then we have the location. So 150 and then 50. You end it. Okay, let me comment these things out because we are not using it anymore. Save you run it, no error, no error. See the set bound. So there's no need of you using that, because the first two parts is for the size, the second two parts is for the location. Now this is when you set the containers. You see, the container can be panel, can be frame, it can be J dialog box and all that. So depending on the container that you are using, all what you need to do is that you tell it that, okay, because I'm using no layout, because every layout that you use by default, it kind of like specify the location and also the size for it. But because you are using no layout, you have to specify where you want to place it, and then also the size of the item you are placing it. That is what set layout to now. So we know the difference between border layout, flow layout, and also setting the layout to now. Please, there are more layouts and there's no time for me. I keep on saying, read your books, follow the examples. If you have any question, you ask. I'll bring my layout exercise to an end. Okay, this is all for what we have, and I'm sure I'm done with the introduction book. The first book, the next time you see me recording anything, will come from what? The programming in Java book. Have a nice day. If you have any question, don't hesitate. You know what to do anyway. You know what to do. Thank you. Have a nice day, and bye-bye.